My friends, welcome to the first official Jedi counseling podcast. My name is El, and I am a Jedi counselor. I am a licensed therapist and also a minister. I created this podcast in order to be an intersection between mental health and Jedi spiritualism. For many, the Jedi realist tradition is embodying the different concepts found in the Jedi and using it to better your life. And for others, they take it as a true spiritual practice and movement. Regardless of how you found this podcast, today's episode is about returning to balance, the path back to yourself. And so part one is dedicated towards the fact that we drift and this isn't failure. There's a moment that most of us know, though I would say we rarely give it a voice. It's not a dramatic moment. There's no single catastrophe to point to. There's no clear line you can identify where things went off the rails. It's kind of quieter than that. It's the moment you look up from the life you've been living and realize, kind of hollow recognition, that you're not quite where you are meant to be, where you want to be. So maybe the practice has slipped. The mornings that used to begin with stillness now begin with your smartphone. The body you committed to honoring has been running on too little sleep, too little movement, too much ice cream, too much of whatever helps you get through the afternoon. The emotional steadiness you cultivated feels distant, like something you remember having once, I think. The connection to something larger than yourself, the thing that you have been calling the Force, has gone quiet in a way that a radio frequency goes quiet when you no longer tune to it. You might have drifted. And the very first thing this Holocron wants to say to you is this: drifting is not failure. It's not evidence that you're not a Jedi. It's not evidence that you're not suited for the path, that you're not serious enough, that you're not strong enough. So what is it? Well, it's evidence that you're a living being moving through a demanding world. Drift is what happens to everything. Rivers drift. Planets drift. The cells in your body are in a constant flux. So the question has never been whether you will drift. The question is what you do when you notice it. There's a particular cruelty in the way that we tend to respond to our own drift, though. We notice we have fallen away from the practice, and instead of just simply acknowledging that and returning, we first punish ourselves for having left. We catalog our failures. We compare the person we are today to the person we were at our best, or worse, to some idealized version of what a Jedi or what a person should be. We construct elaborate narratives about why we felt short and what it means about us. And then when we're exhausted from all of our own self-prosecution, we find we have even less energy for the return than we had before. So this is the drift compounding upon itself. This is how a temporary departure becomes a long absence. However, there is no ignorance. There is knowledge. The Jedi path asks something different. It asks you to notice the drift without all the drama, to see it clearly, without flinching and without magnifying, and to say simply and without ceremony, I've been away, and I am now returning. That is enough. That has always been enough. Part two is, what is balance anyway? Before we can speak meaningfully about returning to balance, we have to be honest about what balance is. Because the word is used so freely and in so many contexts that it risks ultimately meaning nothing. Balance is not stillness. This is the first misunderstanding that we have to clear away. Many people, when they imagine a balanced life, imagine something static, calm, untroubled, a life in which the difficult things have been resolved and the competing demands have been harmonized into a kind of permanent ease. This is not balance. This is a fantasy. And chasing it will exhaust you because it describes a condition that no living being ever inhabits for long. Balance is dynamic. It is the quality of a tightrope walker rather than a statue. The walker is in a constant motion, making hundreds of micro adjustments per second, leaning slightly left and then slightly right, never perfectly centered, but always in relationship with the center. The balance is not in perfected stillness. The balance is in the responsiveness. The balance is in the returning. You are not a statue trying to stay still. You are water learning to flow. And this matters enormously for how we understand the Jedi path. If balance is a state to be achieved, then every departure from it is a defeat. If balance is a practice of returning, then every departure from it is simply an opportunity to practice returning. It's an invitation. The entire emotional valence of the path shifts depending on which understanding you hold. Okay, consider water. Water does not resist the shape of its container. It does not insist on being any particular form. It flows into whatever its spaces it occupies, and when the space changes, it flows again. That's not weakness. Water carved the Grand Canyon. The quality that makes water yielding is the same quality that makes it powerful over time. In Jedi understanding, this is the nature of balance. It's not rigid or fixed. It's responsive. It's flowing, always seeking its own level. And the Force is the current beneath you, not something you generate or maintain, something that always was present, something already in motion, already moving in the direction of balance. And your work is not to create the current. Your work is to stop fighting it. For the third part of this, it's that the body knows before the mind does. So what do I mean by that? Well, we spend a lot of time in our heads, right? This is understandable. The mind is loud and insistent and very good at convincing us that its activity is the most important thing happening at any given moment. But the Jedi understanding of the whole person recognizes something that the mind alone tends to miss, which is that the body is an instrument of the Force, and it speaks a language that is worth learning. Because long before you consciously recognize that you've drifted, your body knows. It tells you in the language that it has. Tension held in the shoulders that never really goes away, a heaviness in your chest that's like not quite sadness, but is kind of like adjacent to it. Sleep that does not restore. A restlessness that follows you into meditation, an appetite that is either absent or just like impossible to satisfy. This is your body's form of communication. These communications are the body reporting as faithfully as it knows how on a state of the whole system. So when we're out of balance, the body registers before the conscious mind catches up. And when we return to balance, the body registers that too, often with a relief so palpable that it can literally bring tears. The third pillar of Jedi practice is self-discipline. And that has always included the physical self, and this is not like incidental. The Jedi tradition has always understood that you cannot separate the care of the body from the health of the mind or from the clarity of the spirit. They're all one system. Neglect any part and the whole is affected. Tend to any part with genuine attention and the whole begins to respond. So when we speak of returning to balance, we're not only speaking of meditation or philosophy or emotional regulation. We're talking about sleep, of movement, of sunlight on your skin, which, by the way, is a literal biological need, something our body was designed to receive and that the modern demands often steal from us. We're inside too much. We're speaking of water, of food that nourishes rather than merely fills us up, of small physical dignities that are easy to abandon when life gets too hard and that costs us more than we realize. One of the things most Jedi One of the most Jedi things you can do when you notice you've drifted is to begin with the body. Not with the most ambitious version of physical discipline, not with the plan you'll fully commit to starting next Monday, but with something small and immediate and real. A walk outside, 10 minutes of deliberate stillness or meditation, a meal prepared and eaten with intention, 8 hours of sleep chosen over a, scroll doom fest, what do they call it? Doom scrolling. The body, given even a small gesture of care, begins to respond, especially if you're paying attention. And when the body begins to respond, you'll notice the mind grows quieter. And when the mind grows quieter, the force becomes audible again. Healing is not linear, would be part 4, our final part for this evening. There's a story that we are sometimes told about healing and growth, and it goes kind of like this. You identify the problem, right? You commit to the solution, you make steady progress, and eventually you arrive at a better version of yourself. The arc is clean. The direction is always forward. The graph goes up and to the right. Here's the problem. That story is not true, and believing it causes unnecessary suffering, and suffering is the path to the dark side. Real healing moves in spirals. It's messy. You will address something and feel genuinely better, and then encounter it again from a slightly different angle maybe, and maybe even months or years later, and you'll maybe get frustrated and say, what the hell, I dealt with you. I took care of this. You'll make progress, and then you'll regress, and then you'll make progress again. You'll have weeks of clarity followed by weeks of fog. You'll think you've resolved something, only to find it was waiting for you around a corner you didn't know was there. This is not your failure. This is the nature of growth in living systems, in a living force. A tree does not grow in a straight line. It grows towards light and around obstacles in the direction of what it needs. Its rings are not perfectly uniform. Some years were harder than others. The tree doesn't apologize for this. What this means practically is that you're allowed to be somewhere where you have been before. You're allowed to be working on the same things you thought you had already worked on. You're allowed to be beginning again, and again after that. Beginning isn't an evidence of failure. Each beginning is evidence of a person who, when they notice they drift, chooses to return. The Jedi tradition does not promise you a destination. It promises you a direction. And the direction is always available. It doesn't expire. It doesn't lock you out after a certain number of failed attempts. The path is there when you're ready to walk it, whether that's the first time or the 100th. Healing in our practice is a relationship you maintain with yourself, with the Force. And some days, that relationship is vibrant and close, and you feel it in everything that you do, and other days it's quiet. But both are part of the relationship. So I lied to you. I'm going to add one final part to this, because we've talked about it. So you've drifted. You know it. You're ready to return. So what does the return actually look like? Well, I can tell you it does not look like a dramatic recommitment. It does not look like a new system, a new schedule, a new version of yourself you're about to become as if it's a New Year's resolution. It does not look like catching up on everything you missed while you're away. The return is often more quiet than any of that. The return begins with a moment of presence. Right now, in whatever circumstances you're in, you become present. Notice your breath. Notice the weight of your body. Notice that the Force is here, as it always has been. Simply present in the way that gravity is present, the way that air is present. It's not earned or conditional, it just is. From that moment of presence, you take on one small action in the direction of the path. 1, not 10, not a program, one action that is genuine and immediate and within your actual capacity. If your body's been neglected, drink a glass of water. Step outside. Go to sleep when you're tired. If the mind has been cluttered, sit quietly for 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. I've been talking for 16. You have 5. If the spirit feels disconnected, name it. Say aloud or in writing, I have been away and I am returning. Just state the truth. The Force does not require context or an explanation. Then you do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. You rest when you're exhausted. You ask for help when you need it, from your community, from your practice, from whatever understanding of the Force sustains you. I want to end this holocron with a word for the ones who are tired. Not like philosophically tired or metaphorically tired, but like genuinely, physically in their bones tired. Jedi or non-Jedi. Who are doing their best in circumstances that are legitimately, genuinely hard. The people who are carrying things they didn't choose to carry. Maybe it's family drama. Maybe it's personal loss. Maybe it's money issues. The Jedi path is not asking you to be stronger than you are. It's not asking you to feel better than you feel or pretend that hard things are not hard or to perform equanimity you don't possess. The path meets you where you are. The Force is present in your exhaustion as much as it is present in your clarity. Rest is not abandonment of the practice. I had to learn this myself recently. Rest is, sometimes, the practice. The body that is allowed to rest is the body that can return. The mind that is given permission to stop striving for a moment is the mind that can, in that stillness, hear something quiet and more reliable than all the noise it was just generating. You're allowed to be exactly where you are. You're allowed to be in the middle of a difficult season and to not yet be through it. You're allowed to be a Jedi who is struggling. The struggling does not disqualify you. The willingness to keep orienting toward the light, like the tree I mentioned before, even on days where you can't quite see it, is all that you need to do. So, return. In whatever small way you can, today, return. Not to the ideals, but to the practice. Return to the body. Return to the present moment. Return to the Force, which has not gone anywhere. It's only been waiting. The same way the ocean waits for the tide. Go in peace, and may the Force be with you.